I think there's a huge misconception that putting yourself first is so selfish, when in fact, in order to serve others, you need to be full, because then you're pouring from an overflowing cup and people are getting your overflow, not your exhaust. When I was pouring into others from a place of exhaust, the end result was mental breakdown for me. When people get 100% of your overflow, it's beautiful.
What's up, everybody, and welcome back to It's a Matter of Speaking, a podcast for leading voices in the realms of health, wealth, and relationships. Today, we're talking relationships with Lacy. Lacy is a thought leader, level 2 QHH practitioner, trauma-informed martial artist, corporate educator, and recovering addict dedicated to helping spiritual entrepreneurs reclaim their sovereignty. She's a survivor of trauma, addiction, and 8 pulmonary embolisms due to a rare blood disorder. Lisa turned her pain into purpose. She created emotional intelligence for recovery from trauma and addiction and developed the Consciousness Cauldron framework, which we talk about today. It's absolutely awesome, empowering individuals to break free from toxic conditioning and step into radical self-love. As the F'Off Shamaness, she teaches bold self-liberation, unshakable boundaries, and fearless authenticity, because true healing begins with choosing yourself unapologetically. We talked about a bunch of cool things today. F-Off does not stand for the F word. It is literally an acronym, so we go through that today. We talk about the importance of breath. We talk about the importance of being selfish and setting up boundaries and giving yourself the right to say no to people so you can fill your own cup, to give of yourself fully. Lisa is a part of our business accelerator and inner circle program. She has been building her course to help other people change their lives. She's made over $30,000 in revenue generated in just over a month, almost coming up on 2 months now. She's a great leader that we have. And speaking of leader, that's what this podcast is brought to you by. Over 8 years, Leader has made it a mission to help its coaching and consulting clients get their authentic message out to the world in hopes of reaching their own desired audience through the power of speaking and business building. Over 700 clients landing TEDx talks, hundreds more speaking on virtual and physical stages around the world. Leader has perfected the art of delivering a top-tier message. They also offer programs to build and scale their own high-ticket program and authentically market it, sell it to your target audience, and sustainably scale your business. If you have a message in your heart, you have a mastery in your mind, check us out. There's links in the description below. And while you're down there, make sure you like and subscribe. Give us a comment what you're learning in these podcasts, what you like, what you don't like, and why you hate my beard. But with that being said, let's kick it over to me and Lisa. What's up, everybody, and welcome back. A Matter of Speaking podcast for leading voices, and we're on episode 42, speaking with the almighty Lacy. Lisa, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here. It's an honor and a privilege. Thanks for having me.
Not a problem. You're one of my favorite clients to work with. I love your story. We get to talk about it today, but I ask everybody the same question to start is like, you are a leading voice for what you believe in. That's why we have this podcast, right? You have not only had a journey, you want to help other people through that journey. You get on podcasts, you have your own podcast, you are on social media, you're putting together your own events, all to get your message out to the world. So for you, that's a badge of honor. What does it mean to be a leading voice to Lisa Lacy?
I freaking love this question, and I'm going to borrow it from someone else. There's a book called It Didn't Start With You by Mark Wall, and it talks about the epigenetics of trauma. And in the book, he says, the truly great ones don't care whether you believe in their teachings or not. They present a truth, then leave you with yourself to discover your own truth. A guru gives us himself and then his system. A teacher gives us his subject and then ourselves. I call myself a healer, Dylan, but not because I heal others. I healed myself, and I give others the tools, tips, skills, and resources and permission to heal themselves. That is a leading voice. And a great book to read, guys.
I was gonna say that. And thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you next week. No, I mean that's so powerful. And I think there's selflessness
Yeah.
that comes in it. Where did that come in your journey? When did you pick up this book and start embodying that?
I'm actually going back to school to study epigenetics. I'll be starting in a few months, so that's another thing I'm tackling. But I started studying epigenetics a few years back. I lost my grandmother. She was unalived in a domestic violence situation, and that trauma was carried down to my mom, carried down to me, of course, carried down to my daughter. But I am the cycle breaker. So
Mm.
um, that's it, man. We are cycle breakers. Those of us doing this work are the ones breaking the epigenetics for generations of trauma and emotional suffering. We don't have to emotionally suffer.
I think the way you talk about it is beautiful because the way you just said it, confidence, like embodying. I hear the confidence. I'm a cycle breaker, but then you also have this selflessness tied to it of I don't care if you want to take this and run with it. It's up to you. You
Yeah,
just live it and give those practices out there. And it's worked for you. You talk about the severe trauma that's generational. You're the cycle breaker and addiction. That's a lot.
it's a lot.
What do you think personally it takes to get through that?
You know, I didn't have to think too hard about this question. What surviving all of that has taught me and helped me teach others is a very simple thing, and that is just to remember to breathe.
Hmm.
Breath, right? It's sacred. I'm still breathing. And
Mhm.
so trauma, we trauma survivors, we get stuck. The body keeps score. Bessel van der Kolk, trauma gets stuck in our body and we forget to breathe. It's enough to just breathe in your existence and be. And that is enough. Some days at the end of the day, I have to say, what did I do today? I stayed sober and I breathed through the day. I made the day. It was a good day.
And is that something you do every night? Is say, what did I do? Like that was a accomplishment today. Even like you say, if it's something small.
Yes, I go through my wins each night before bed. Yeah.
It's so fun doing 42 episodes of this because you start to hear from people. It's like, yeah, it's the same thing Ken Williams said. Yeah, it's the same thing that Kia Murti said. It's this like we have these simple practices that we come back to, and it's one of those. It's like simple, but it's not easy.
Yeah. Well, you just have to remember, right? In our aim assessment today, you talked about forgetting and talked
Mhm,
about the gift. I loved the words gift of remembering.
mhm,
They're simple processes. You just have to remember to do them. It takes 5 minutes. In my podcast, the overall theme with all of the mentors and coaches and leaders that I've been talking to is you start with 5 minutes of something.
mhm.
That's what we're asking. It
Yeah.
starts with that. Yeah.
I think a lot of people get hung up in like, hey, it has to be. They see a picture of someone and they're like, I have to be them next week, and
Mhm.
they just want to get to the end, and they don't realize that those first initial steps are 5 minutes of breath, do nothing. Then it's 5 minutes of writing. It's
Yes.
just simple steps. So, where in your journey, your origin story, you get through all this, you're coming to breath. When did it kind of dawn on you that you're like, I want to help others with it? And what did it start with?
Well, it's a fascinating story that would take a really long time to go into too much detail, but I got involved with a spiritual cult that I didn't know was a cult. My therapist was like in January, she's like, "You're in a spiritual cult, Lisa." And you know what my response was? I said, "I'm too smart for that." By December, I called her crying and I was like, "Holy shit, I'm in a spiritual cult and they're all after me. This is terrible." So I had an experience with a mentor who thought she was a guru and handed people her system and manipulated vulnerable people, specifically people with mental illness. And seeing her do that made me realize that I wanted to be a transformational coach, but I wanted to be one that was ethical and compassionate in support. So it was having that terrible experience that actually prompted me to say I could do it better. Right.
Mm.
Yeah.
And when you started it, what was the initial, hey, this is what I want to help people with? Because you've been through a lot, right?
Yes. Yes. Um, there, because I've been through so much, there's so many things that I can help people with. But I
Mhm.
think the F off framework is kind of the pinnacle of everything. that has happened in the last 10 years. Dylan, my main goal is this. Like, it took me 10 years to get here, and I don't want people to take 10 years. I have a 9-week program that's transformational that helps people cross the threshold. I want people to end their emotional suffering faster than I did. That's
Mm,
the end goal. And I want to do it in a very ethical and responsible way.
yeah. I love the way you're going about it. And to give you credit, in what, a month and a half, over 30K in revenue generated. I think that's
Yes.
absolutely amazing. You can help people change their lives and you can get paid for it. I think that's huge.
Well, I
And
didn't know that was possible until I joined Thought Leader. I was like, I've been floundering for 4 years on my own trying to figure this out, and I am still in kind of like shock. I'm still catching up to it that it actually happened because my goal is 50K a month. I
mm,
want to make 7 figures by the end of the year.
we're excited to help you do it.
Yeah.
And anytime we bring someone into the program, I wouldn't say all the time, but so often people say what you said. It's like, I had a challenge. It took me this long to get through it. I learned so much in the process. Let me truncate that time for other people now, if they just follow the steps. Now, I think a big part of what you do, we're going to get into the F-off framework in a bit. But when I think of F-off self-love, I do start to think of, all right, love yourself first, set those boundaries. And it's almost like people know that, like, consciously. They're like, yes, boundaries and self love. But it's almost like we look at it the wrong way. What do you think are like the biggest misconceptions people have when it comes to boundaries and self love?
Well, I think a misconception about self-love is that it's about selfishness and indulgence, and it's actually a discipline, right? It's actually a discipline, and um boundaries are walls. They're not doors,
Mm,
right? People can come and go, but you put up those walls, you don't shut the door. So I think there's a huge misconception that putting yourself first is so selfish, when in fact, in order to serve others, you need to be full, because then you're pouring from an overflowing cup and people are getting your overflow, not your exhaust. When I was
mm,
pouring into others from a place of exhaust, the end result was mental breakdown for me.
mm.
When people get 100% of your overflow, it's beautiful.
Yeah. And then you talk about, this is a big word for you, reclaiming your sovereignty.
Yes.
So when you can do this, how does that then, you know, that ripple effect go into reclaiming your sovereignty?
You're standing in your true authenticity, truly who you are, not who other people want you to be, not who you even think you are until you start this journey, but who you truly are. And unapologetically rejecting what drains you reclaims your energy.
Really love this fact of overflow instead of exhaust, right?
Yeah.
Because it's like you have so much to give. And really, when you look at these walls that you put up, it's to allow that to fill again.
Yes.
Otherwise, you're always on half.
Yeah, they're swinging doors, right? You can
Mhm.
open them whenever you want, but you keep them closed when it's as simple as, and we'll get to that. We'll get to that part later. I'm getting ahead of myself, but yeah, walls not doors, and you have permission to unapologetically choose you. Unapologetically. That's standing in your sacred sovereignty,
Hmm.
authenticity, who you really are, without people pleasing. People pleasing is actually very bad for our brain. There's a lot of brain science around it now.
Hmm. Yeah, I love this unapologetically authentic, and being able to stand in that. Now, I think the cool thing about your program, you and I chatted about this. We got to like brainstorm workshop on it. Is the Consciousness Cauldron. So high level for anyone out there, what is, I'm a huge nerd. I look like a wizard. Explain
I look
expl-
like a priestess. I am actually a certified priestess.
we
There
got
we go.
priestess and a wizard walk into
Yeah.
a bar.
I,
Only one of them drinks. What is the Consciousness
yeah,
Cauldron?
I become something else when I drink. That's hell right there. Yeah.
Okay, that'll be my
Let's
sign.
not go there.
What? No, no. Explain though. People come. Now we're going down rabbit holes. Priestess and a wizard go down rabbit
All
holes.
right.
No,
The consciousness
hit me.
cauldron is an alchemical space where transformation occurs. Okay.
Mm,
It's a sacred container that I've created for dissolving toxic conditioning, reprogramming limiting beliefs. It's our limiting beliefs that stop us many times. And we do deep trauma clearing through accelerated trauma resolution therapy. It's a program that I created.
mhm,
We do energy recalibration, shadow work, vibrational mastery, emotional intelligence, Akashic records. We look at human design. We look at anything and everything that can give you pieces of who you are, right?
mhm.
So that you can make clear decisions about what your purpose is and then go and fulfill that. When we are living a life that leads into our purpose, we really want to be here. And I have my deep desire statement that I'll close out with. It came to me today in an AIM assessment, and it brought tears of joy to my eyes. But I really want people living their purpose and fulfill. I believe everybody has a mission,
Mm.
and I want people to stay here to fulfill their mission.
You hear that, person listening on YouTube? You have a mission.
Yeah,
Go fulfill it.
yeah,
Couple of questions there, which I love this because when now I hear cauldron, everything goes into it, right? Like
yeah.
you say, Akashic records, human design, you have astrology, you do trauma, all that stuff. And what I wrote down is like, when you fully know you, when you every part of it through all these, then you can make more clear decisions.
Yes.
My question is, everyone that comes to work with you, do they all go through the same thing? Like, for instance, do you ever have someone, or do you intend that you'll have someone that's like not dealing with as much trauma?
It's customized.
Yeah.
It's customized. Like today, for instance, I had a session with a client that we had to change up what we did.
Hmm.
I'm certified in so many things. Like I got so many certifications that ain't even funny. So we get to pick and choose. So it's very customized to what's going on acutely at that time. My particular client this morning had a really rough week, so we had to do some clearing instead of what was scheduled on the calendar. So it changes according to what is needed at the time.
Yeah.
And the thing about a cauldron is you get to pick and choose. You get to take a little of this, a lot of that. See, I am built and designed where one thing did not work for me. I spent $200,000 and 15,000 hours in therapeutic support. You name it, I did it. CBT, DBT, brain mapping, neurofeedback, psychiatry for highly sensitive people. If you name a therapy, I went through it. I did it, and I still felt like shit when I
Mm-hmm.
was done. Right?
Mm-hmm.
It was the emotional intelligence piece. It was the F'Off method that really got me to where I was like, okay, now I feel like I'm living my mission and purpose. Now I know what I'm doing. So, um, yeah, we customize it to where people are at. I meet people where they're at. I'm very good at that.
I love that you talk about emotional intelligence and you say the F off method, like the fuck off method, right? And I think it's a beautiful the F off method. But it's so jarring at first,
It
right? I
is.
think it's a good thing. It gets people's attention. But I also want to give you the space here, right? Because you call it the F off method. But can you talk to me about how like that truly helps when it comes to our emotional intelligence? Like I'd love to give you a space to elaborate on it a bit more now
Yeah.
that we're in it.
It's about assertive rejection, and it's actually an acronym that does not play with the F bomb. We stayed away from the F bomb strategically.
Fuck.
Sorry, Dylan. There's no FUCK in there. It's actually an acronym, and it stands for F, face the truth. What are you in denial about? What's really draining you? You know,
Mm-hmm.
own your boundaries that you set, fully choose yourself around them, and then fearlessly take action. So, with those four parts, we change who we are. And the beauty about working with people is when we work together, I believe some parts of coaching are a gift, and I have a natural gift for it, right? Some coaching methods can be taught, but I believe some of us are just innately gifted at coaching.
Mm-hmm.
And when I work with people, they cross what I call the threshold. And what I mean by the threshold is there's no going back to who you were. There's no more of this taking one step forward and five steps back. You cross a threshold where you are a not a new person, but the person that you truly are, if that makes any sense.
Hmm.
And here's the most important part of it, Dylan. I get people to their highest timeline, their highest purpose timeline, right? So they can fulfill their mission. That's what our goal is.
Hmm. I love this, and I love having this like threshold of there's no turning back.
Hmm.
Um, you and I have talked Marvel, superheroes, all that stuff. Big believer. People talk about like you've lived multiple lives.
Hmm.
For me, one of the biggest things I learned from reading a Stephen King series called The Dark Tower is he poses this idea at the end. He's like, what if you haven't lived multiple lifetimes as a pirate or as a monk or as a woodsman? What if you have been Dylan Barr trillions of times?
Hmm.
Right, and you've done this over and over again. What are you going to do this time to, like you say, be that highest self, to
Yeah,
choose the right decisions on all the forks in the road? I like, and then you say take fearless action. But with that, it also brings up a question, because I think a lot of people hear this and they're like, oh, it's great for you guys, whatever, but I'm here. What do you think, anyone listening, what do you think is that first small step someone could take to leaning into their consciousness cauldron, to leaning into um, fearlessly taking action and crossing the threshold? Like, what do you think is that first small baby step?
it's very simple. It's using the word no. That's it. Using the word no.
Mm.
Neurologically, saying no actually activates our prefrontal cortex, which is our brain's decision making center, and it reduces the stress response and cortisol levels linked to people pleasing. People pleasing actually literally stresses our body out. When we repeatedly assert our boundaries with assertive rejection, we are actually rewiring our brain for self trust and self love. How freaking cool is that?
That is cool. As a part of my life being a people pleaser, I'm taking a bunch in, because when you say that first step, which everyone's like, you got to take action, you got to do this, I got to like exude energy, which is scary. This is actually saying, no, take one action to conserve your energy.
Yeah, keep it. Keep it. It's yours. It's yours. Your energy is a freaking privilege.
Mm. Who is it? Like, if anyone's listening, who is it that tends to come to you to learn this stuff?
Oh, easy questions. People that have tried everything else and they still feel like shit.
Yeah.
That's
And they see this colorful sorceress and they're like, I want to work with her.
I get them when they're like, okay, I'm going to try this gal because I've tried everything else and nothing else has worked. That's usually when people come to me. But great, because then this shit works, right?
I
Yeah.
get people at the end of the line.
No,
And how do they find you? Like, how do people tend to find you?
I simply come across their screen one day. You can find me on TikTok. You can
Hmm.
find me on Substack. You can find me on YouTube. But when people find me, it is serendipitous and it's always meant to be. And every time they're like, where did you come from? I literally just fall into their lap.
It's we'll put those links in the description below. But anyone listening, the joy you have in the find a way mentality, you practice what you preach.
I do
She does TikTok lives regularly. Is it every day
daily,
still?
daily. Yeah.
You do readings for people, you take time for people. You had a Facebook group of a couple hundred people in it that then crashes, so you start Substack. It's just like, I think we want to learn from someone that we want to be like, right? Um, and I think you're a testament of it.
Well,
So,
I have a there's no quitting attitude. There's a lot of grit and tenacity in me. And I think that might be a little innate too, but I want to impart that onto people that we don't give up around here. We rest as needed, but always one more try.
mm,
That's what we say. Always one more try.
it's a
We,
reason. Oh God, I'm sorry.
we keep going.
Yeah. I think there's a reason you've had success in both helping people and kicking off your business. Like I said, over $30,000 in a month and a half, 2 months, loving what you're doing, coming through our program, leader. What has been one of the biggest takeaways for you when it comes to starting your business?
With you guys, it is that um guidance is not about control, but it's about offering a space for transformation. And that's what you guys have built. It's not just a program, it's a space for transformation. In the rewriting of the TEDx's and the getting on the calls with people, I have grown so much in the past 3 months. Now, in addition, it gave me structure. I needed structure. It gave me a strategy. um he gave me, efficiency and skills in terms of how to scale a business. But it's a space for transformation personally, and as
Mm.
we grow, we're more capable of helping others grow. So yeah, the structure's there, the strategy's there, all of that is there, the classes are there. But it's a transformative space too. It's a cauldron of its own, so to speak.
I mean, you got a wizard on it, and a hippie surfer with Taylor. Uh,
You need
I,
the surfer too.
you need both, man. He's such a great megaphone for what we do. To then for us to create this arena in the background to help other people learn in. So
Well,
I
and you
love.
guys are authentic. There's an authenticity to you. There's unwavering support in the community, which is rare, really rare, especially for a gal like me, because I'm a little weird. But there's unwavering support. But you guys are very authentic in who you are as individuals, and every one of you are so individualized. And the support from the community, the input from the community is invaluable. It's priceless.
I think a lot of people forget that when you have a community of like-minded people, because a lot of us live in towns, or we live in spaces where you can't talk to a lot of people that are close to you in that network about what you're doing because they're not doing it.
My mom
Uh,
still says, people are paying you for what? That's
if I could tell you how many of my hockey buddies' eyes glaze over when I actually tell them what I do, it would shock you. But it's like you're finding women to come speak at events that you're putting together, and you'll continue to do that yearly. It really, really is cool. And thank you for saying that. That being said, it's time to go into what I call the uncomfort zone. It's the last three questions that I ask people when they're on the podcast. It has been such a fun podcast. I feel like I'm learning way more than just 24 minutes worth of stuff.
right on. That's the
You
be.
you're fearless with it. Fearlessly take action. And you've done that with something that you care about. Comfort and uncomfort is a thing. And I think if we don't talk about it on podcasts are great to learn from people, and you're like, that's great for them. Because we don't talk about the tough shit.
Yep.
And the tough shit is the uncomfortness,
Yep.
uncomfortability. Why did you decide to get uncomfortable to get this message out there? Because you're talking about it every single day. You're going on lives on TikTok that people don't even know you. You're then bringing people in. You're doing events. Like, why did you decide to get uncomfortable to talk about this?
Fear is not a stop sign, it's a threshold. And the only way forward is through. That's what I love about transformational coaching, is it's about moving you forward. Whereas therapy, and it is needed, there's a place for it, but it's always looking backwards.
Hmm.
So fear is the thing that stops people. We're wired for fear, right? Change is like, oh, danger, danger, danger. So we have to make a conscious choice to get uncomfortable, to go through the threshold, and not see it as a stop sign,
Hmm.
right? Not a place to stop.
Which kind of then potentially answers my next question, which is, why do you think there's a lot of people out there? Why do you think they never get outside their comfort zone? Is it because they see fear as a stop sign, or do you think there's a little more to it?
There's definitely deeper layers to it. People get comfortable in what's familiar,
Hmm.
and the pain can be so familiar that people are okay with it. Because
Hmm.
breaking free requires a conscious disruption of old patterns. Breaking free. Look, 95% of the thoughts you had yesterday, you'll have today, you'll have tomorrow. That's ridiculous when you think about it. 80% of those are negative.
Hmm.
That's our birth.
Hmm.
That's how we start out. And then you come out of the womb into some trauma, and then you got 100% of your thoughts are negative. We have to consciously disrupt the patterns. And you know what it starts with? One thought at a time.
So that question that I typically ask of what would be something you tell someone to slowly get outside of that? Would you just say one thought at a time, or what could?
I would say jump. I would say jump. It's going to be worth it. Jump
Man,
scared. Jump scared.
okay. We just got done talking with, I think it was Ken Williams last time, and we said all of life could almost boil down to an analogy of jumping into cold water with your friends
Yeah.
because it's fun. You enjoy it, but it's just like everything that leads up to it. Oh,
And then you don't have any regrets because you gave it a go.
Mm,
You know?
yeah.
Give it
You
a
and
go.
you and I actually talked about on your podcast that I was on. Make sure you guys are checking this out. We'll put that in the link in the description below as well.
Yep, sir.
Um, we talk about not wanting to die with regret, saying that we did everything, and I really do. I want to thank you as we come to the conclusion here, Lisa. What you gave people that are listening to help them take action and live life without regret. A couple of things. This is what I call the Dylan notes section. A couple of things that we talked about is really not caring if people believe in your message or not, but just being that voice for other people, giving frameworks to help other people step into it for themselves. And to start, we talk about breath being sacred and it being enough, and selfishness being a discipline, right? Fully knowing you in this consciousness cauldron so you can make clear decisions, then you can fearlessly take action to cross the threshold. And using the word no is a good thing because it helps us set those boundaries. Um, I put fear as a threshold again. My gosh, pain can be familiar, and you need to you need to consciously disrupt your thought patterns. There's so much more in today's podcast, but for anyone out there, if you liked it, make sure you're liking, make sure you're subscribing, and if you have any questions or big takeaways, put that out into the world. Drop it in the comments below. We'll be seeing you in weeks to come. But finally, Lisa Lacy, thank you so much. Thank you.
We did it. We did it. So much fun, Dylan. Thank you so much. It was such I was so stoked to be invited to be on here. So thank you. Always a joy to chat with you about anything.
Thank you. Keep doing what you're doing. I'm sending you nothing but love. Congratulations again on 7 years. For anyone here, type congrats in the comments, and we'll see you all next week.
Right on. Peace out.
See ya.